Well, welcome. I want to welcome you to Journey to Freedom TV. I'm Estelle Gibson, and I'm a certified public accountant and a certified coach. It's a little early in the morning, so excuse me as I get my tongue tied. So welcome to the show. Now, this is a show that I've created to showcase coaches and service-based professionals that are involved or have something to inform my target market, which is coaches, speakers, authors, and service-based professionals that want to use their gifts and talents and make a difference in the world. So who I personally work with, I'm a money and mindset coach, and I help my clients manage their money. And that means in simple ways that are unique to them, their personality and their skill set, and to master their mindset. Because if you don't handle your mindset, you will be back in the same boat of not being able to manage your money. And I'll talk a little bit about that in some future videos so you can understand that. But managing your mindset is key to creating the life and business that you want. So today I'm super excited to introduce Leanne Linsky. Leanne is a certified life coach who is living her own big dream. I am so excited about that because so many of us have big dreams that we want for our business, and we want to be able to live that lifestyle and that life that we love. So Leanne is doing it. She is living large. All right. So Leanne has traveled internationally, relocated 28 times. Can't wait to hear about that, including 3 cross-country moves in her 20 years. She's been married and divorced twice, and packed 2 suitcases and moved to New York to commit to a life of acting and comedy. You're going to love her. She's really funny. And created a Life Laughter, which is her company to help others live their dreams also. So Leanne has completed her Coachville Associate Certified Coach training, and she's now stepping out from behind the microphone. Leanne is passionate about helping everyday people discover their resiliency and their laughter in the midst of life's not so funny challenges. I'm sure you can all relate to that, whether it's breakups, career changes, or relocations. That way they can move forward fearlessly without self-doubt or judgment. So if you're ready for a fresh start, new perspective, and some fun, Leanne helps you create a game to take your life from boohoo to woohoo. Love that. Welcome, Leanne. Yeah,
Hello.
I'm switching over. Okay, we're both here. So I'm so excited that you're here.
Me too. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's jump right in. I have a few questions for you. And the first one is well, first I want to ask you something personal. So, what's your favorite food?
Anything that somebody else cooked.
I love that. So we're not a cook, are we?
No, I try. I try really hard. But, like the other day, I was gonna cook dinner for the boyfriend, and I started the rice, but I forgot to press the correct button. So when we went to eat like an hour later, nothing was happening.
It was like Rice Krispies.
It was just uncooked.
Yeah.
Sitting there in water waiting.
You're like, takeout. Right?
He's like, there's only one button. I'm like, yeah, I pressed the wrong one.
Well, you live in California and you can order pretty much anything, right?
We can, so yeah. It worked out just fine. Yeah.
Exactly.
We live real close to a lot of good restaurants.
It's awesome. So Leanne, tell us a little bit about your story and your journey and how you made this amazing transition from your career to what you're doing right now.
Yeah. It's funny because if you would have asked me 10 years ago what I would be doing today, I would never have guessed that I would be life coaching. That infamous question people always ask, like, what do you want to do 5 years from now? And I always look back, what would I have answered 5 years ago? And usually it's never what I'm doing today.
Coaching.
Yeah. It's not that I didn't want to do this. My life was on a different path. So, and that's what I find fascinating is that sometimes, we get so set into an end game and something that we forget that as we play that game, there are so many other doors that open and lead us to really cool, exciting places. And that's kind of what happened with me. Is I was living in New York for many years, and I was pursuing comedy and acting. And then I had this opportunity to move out west. And people often ask, oh, Leanne, did you move to LA for comedy? And I guess you could say that. I moved here for a man, and that turned out to be a joke. So
Oh, that's funny.
so that didn't work so well. And you know, I've heard from so many people like, never move for another person, move for yourself. Well, I moved for this particular relationship, and you know, a couple weeks after I moved, that whole relationship ended, and I was here. And so I was continuing to act and perform and everything, but I realized that I had an opportunity to do things completely different. I had to change everything. I had to change the way I thought about things, my perspective on life, especially relationships. And I really took some time. Instead of moving right back to New York a couple of weeks later, I thought, you know what, there's a reason I'm here. There's a lesson that goes with this. There's something else that I'm supposed to get from this experience. So I stayed, and it was challenging because it challenged all of my values, all of the things I had normally thought. And I decided I'm going to take this and do something completely different. And I had spent so many years performing and talking at people or on the stage for people that as I was going through this, I thought, you know what, it's time that I really sit down and talk with people on a whole different level and take this experience and do something good with it. And especially with relationships, because as you had mentioned, I've been married and divorced twice, and I know breakups really well.
Yeah.
And I also I also know comedy and performing, and so I decided I wanted to take the two and kind of marry them into a successful union of sorts. And what could I do with that? And I started out that I was teaching improv comedy technique to other women who had gone through divorce or breakup so that they could get new perspective. Because that's what I did, and that's what really helped me over the years. And so I wanted to bring that into my life out on the West Coast. And as I did that and started talking to people and then created podcasts, and it was just like, how do I really get good at having these deeper, meaningful conversations? And that's where life coaching came in.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That is so neat.
Yeah. So like I said, I would never have guessed it. And it just seemed like this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. This is the best way to incorporate all of my life experience into something really special.
You know, and when it comes to people, I think life coaching has a bad connotation, but when it comes to life coaching,
Thanks to Lifetime for Women channel.
yeah, you know,
Yeah.
a lot of things in the media and on TV shows, you know, it's kind of like, oh, here's that life coach. But what you just said was so important, because to be a masterful coach, you've got to have that experience that you had along the way has served you so well, hasn't it?
Oh my gosh. It's pretty remarkable that the players that I attract into my practice, I can relate to so much. You know, when they bring things to the table, different challenges, I'm like, oh, I totally get it. Been there. I think in my mind, like, yeah, thank goodness I had that experience, because I've been there, I've done it. I can see where you're at, but I can also see where you're going.
Exactly.
So,
and I think coaching started with a model similar to counseling, where it's like, we'll just sit and ask you questions and you will reveal and they call it the blah, blah, blah of your life and all that. And it's just, I think it's evolving into, and I know Leanne and I have gone to the same school, and what we have been trained in, and what I wholeheartedly believe is that each of us has some expertise that we can help our players or our clients with. And they come to you for some amount of help. They're not coming just for you to ask them questions to reveal their own stuff to self. And I think there's kind of that weird dynamic out there, but hopefully that's changing. And you bring your life experience, you bring your whole self to your coaching so that you can help them in their life.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got all the answers. We'll just ask you some questions, and you can read a book or write an
yeah.
Get that.
Yeah, if it were that, I would just hand you a workbook or something.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna fill out a bunch of stuff in their workbook. Yeah, exactly.
But it's different when we actually talk to people, because there's something, to read something like a self-help book or something is one thing. and it's like, okay, I digest that information, but I walk away and I go to the fridge and I've forgotten like 3 pages of what I just read.
Right.
You know, I mean, you only retain so much. And when we have a conversation and we have to talking things out is really healthy. And then kind
Absolutely.
of, you know, our brain responds to what we ask it. And if we're not asking our brain the right questions, we're not going to get the right answers. So
Exactly.
if we're asking ourselves, why is this happening to me? Why does nothing go right? Our brain is going to automatically answer those questions. But instead, if we answer, what are some different ways to look at this, or you know, what is going right? Now our brain has to answer that question. And
Exactly.
it seems simple, but it's not always that way. Look at that. It's like magic. That was my magic
Right.
wand.
Yeah, it seems
So
like that. But I think when there's a couple things, when you have a conversation, I always say it's 1 + 1 = 3. There's something that happens in the synergy of the connection and the conversation with two
yeah,
people that is not there if you're doing something on your own, if you're journaling, if you're reading books, if you're doing workbooks. There's something that happens in that exchange of information. Not only do you have a broader breadth of experience that you're maybe asking a question in a different way than they would ever think about it, but you're also, it's the forest from the trees thing. You're not in their situation. And so there's an emotional component to them being in their situation that they cannot see outside of it. Right.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when we're faced with a challenge or a new situation, we tend to look at it as like no options or one of two.
Exactly.
And we get stuck in this little tiny space when really we have all of this. But we
Exactly.
can't see the forest through the trees. Sometimes people can't see the forest through the trees, and that's where the coach comes
Exactly.
in. It's like, wait, there's a whole world of
Mhm.
potential out there.
Yeah, and it doesn't take much. It would take
And,
maybe offering up one option, and they're like, well, who knew there was an option? Right. And then
yeah,
it opens up, well, if there's one, there's more.
right.
It's just
Yeah.
something magical that sort of happens. And
And I agree with you. That whole dynamic of having that conversation with somebody is there's an energy there. And especially if you're connected with the right coach, there's a sense of profound belonging that we can bring.
absolutely.
You know, I don't know how many times I can tell you, like when I'm talking to my players, they're like, wow, I've just told you stuff I've never told anybody.
Exactly.
You know, and it should be a conversation, and it's not a conversation like we just have with our friend. It's completely different with a coach. It's a complete non-judgment space. There shouldn't be shoulds and shouldn'ts in the conversation,
Yeah,
right?
right.
But it's about what ifs, and you know, how about, and let's talk, and tell me more. But in it, so that's where it's different from a friend, because we're not just going down the rabbit hole with you and commiserating,
Exactly.
you know. But there's this whole other energy that we can help co-create with someone.
And because it is a profession, there's a level of professional ethics that goes, especially if you're certified, that go along with it. That when you're talking to your friend, okay, you can tell them, please don't tell anybody, but you just never know. So there's a
Yeah.
level of trust and intimacy that's created at a level that you can't get with family and friends, because we're in a space of confidentiality, and we don't have that friend relationship, so we don't have an agenda. We've got a sort of a clear space for people to really reveal some things they wouldn't do otherwise. So I think
Hmm.
that's an important piece too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of your players, who are your players, the clients that you work with, and how do you serve them?
My players are wonderful people. So my players are people who have experienced some major life changes, whether they've broken up with a person, place, or thing.
Yeah.
So when we talk about divorce, I mean, that could, going through a divorce with a person is one thing, but it can also be with a career. I mean, we've all, well, not all of us, but a lot of people like myself, I was in a career for almost 13 years. And to break up with that was like, wow, I identify with that relationship. Um, that's all I've known. I have a routine. That's my schedule. Those are all my connection. Like,
All my
so when,
friends are there, right?
yeah, right. Like that's my world. So it's the same. So a divorce or a breakup with a person, place, or thing, or even a relocation. I moved across country, completely several times now, and even within a city a lot of times. And when we break up with a home, I mean, change is big. And when you start moving your personal belongings around and nesting somewhere else, that can really throw you into loops. So a lot of my players come to me after the crisis mode, but into a what now mode. Like,
That's fun.
this decision's already been made. This is already happening.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm left open with a whole clean slate. I can create a whole different life. What does that look like?
Wow.
What do my relationships look like now? What does a new career look like? And especially as we get older, it's like, I never thought I was going to have to reinvent myself. I thought I was one and done. So here, I am at, in my late 30s or in my late 40s or even later than that, 50s or 60s. And it's, my players are really cool because they come with a whole life experience.
That's great.
And they have that to really draw upon as they play a bigger game, as they create their next chapter.
That's awesome. I call that my second act. I'm
yes.
going into my second act. Or there was something else I called it too. Second act or prime time or something. I'm glad like I kept telling people when I retire, because for those of you that don't know, I'm still in a full-time career position and transitioning to doing this full-time. So I'm doing it part-time. And so I'm like, I got to call this something other than retirement, because that is like out to pasture. And in this day and age with so many baby boomers retiring, they're not doing that or going to their second act. So we got to call it something else.
Yeah, right.
I love that you talk about a career as a breakup, moving, because so many people transition, Leanne. Now they're even doing it, in my day and age, and in yours probably, people stayed at jobs 10, 13, 15 years. Okay, these younger people are not doing that. 5 years is like a long-term relationship with your career. So I just think that's awesome to look at because it has the similar types of issues.
Very much so.
Cool.
It's very much like that. And it's, how do I keep in touch with these people? How do I, you don't want to burn that bridge, or maybe you do, I don't know. So everybody's a little bit different. Like, is that a healthy relationship that you want to continue in some form, or how can you incorporate that relationship into your next one?
Yeah.
Do you have any kids? Do you have any kids or other projects that come from that career? You don't know, or clients that are going to go with you to a new business.
And as you talk about your home, like the thread through all of this is relationships, because I've moved across country before. I got to get new hairdresser, new dentist, new doctor, new chiropractor, there's all these relationships, not just in your neighborhood, but in your like self-care environment that have to be rebuilt.
It's true. And there's different, and just like a marriage with a home, you have a new contract, it's like, okay, well, I can do this. All these little things and compromises and things we tolerate, and different environment, and it changes everything. It changes how we think, how we perceive the world.
Exactly. Your gym, your training.
Yes.
Right? That's a big one. Every time
those are really big.
It's taken me like a year to sort of settle into like the workout routine, because you're just like,
and it's funny because when I moved out here to the West Coast and that initial relationship ended, what had happened in that short amount of time that I'd been here, I ended up making some really strong ties with other people here and creating some friendships that are some of my best friendships.
Wow.
And when I thought about leaving, I'm like, wait a minute, I just created this community with these people. I don't really want to leave. Like I haven't had this kind of connection with some friends. And I think that because of what I had gone through in that particular breakup, that made that bond stronger with these people. And I was like, wow, I really have a good support team here. I don't want to go. This is an opportunity for me to really have a different life, in the sense that I hadn't had in New York. New York was so different because I was, it's New York City. New York is just different than everywhere else.
Opposite ends of the spectrum.
And it's kind of funny because I love everything about New York City, everything. And I miss it very much. But so when I came here, it was like the world stopped spinning. I mean, I was at the grocery store in line and nobody else was in the grocery store, which is it's weird. And also it's very big and has lots of space.
Yeah.
And I'm in the
Not
grocery
New York,
store and I'm
right?
checking out, right? And there's one person in line in front of me and she's chit-chatting with a cashier. And in my mind, I'm like, hurry up. I have nowhere to go, but you better hurry up. And I thought, what is wrong with me? Carrying around all this angst.
Yeah.
So,
Big
so
difference.
we call it the rest coast out here.
Oh,
And
that's
that's,
hilarious. I've never heard that. The rest
yeah,
coast.
the rest coast. We're out on the
Yeah.
rest coast. So it's not all bad. I mean, I do miss New
Oh,
York tremendously, but living on the beach has its benefits.
absolutely.
So, so
Yeah,
yeah, but going back to what we were saying is like everything is a relationship and there's all these little ties that come into play when we make a change in our life. And
absolutely.
that's a lot to look at. That pulls on
Absolutely.
heartstrings.
Yeah, and that being said, what's your big dream for your client and for your business?
Yeah. So let's see, for my clients, you know, it's interesting. A lot of times when my players come to me, they come to me uh, when we first meet initially, or when they first, reach out to set up a session. It's one thing, and then as we dig in and talk about it, it evolves into this bigger thing. And they're like, "Wow, I didn't think that I would be talking about all of this." So, so it gets really exciting when they start seeing their big vision and they speak it out loud, because a lot of people are scared of that. So for my clients, my big dream is for them to uh, feel comfortable enough to sharing what it
Oh,
is they truly want. Like that's big. When we get past the surface stuff and we really dive in,
yeah.
that's what I get excited about. And as for my coaching practice, my big dream this year is really filling out my practice. I would. I'm searching for more players who want to play big.
Yes.
And now, when I say big, that doesn't mean like you have to be that person that I want a Learjet and I want a big
Right.
mansion. It's not that, because we all use our own measuring stick for success. What
Absolutely.
my measuring stick for success is maybe different, completely different than is for you. And just playing big means stepping out of a comfort zone into something new territory that we can explore together, that can kind of take your life from to the next level. Um,
Absolutely.
so playing big for some people can seem really big to others. And so
Yeah.
it's kind of like everybody's rubber band stretches at a different place. Um, so I'm really looking to do that, and really I'm growing my own network, and I'm having a lot of fun with that, because again, I spent so many years in other cities that California is still really new to me. So personally, I have been doing a lot of experiments through networking and how to get out, because I work from home, how to get out of my own little bubble of
Yeah.
isolation, because it gets really cozy in here.
Oh,
It gets
yeah.
really cozy and comfortable, and I have to remind myself daily, how do I play with that? So I'll put out little tests and I'll do experiments every week about where to go somewhere different, change up my routine, um, do things at different times so I run into different people, and then talk to people. And it's funny when we go out on the street and we talk to people, aren't always expecting to start a conversation with a complete stranger when you're in the
Right.
store or something like that. And I love the element of surprise that comes with that, and the conversation that we end up with. We never know.
I think that is really cool that you're doing that, Leanne, because so many people, especially people listening to this, work, in this digital age, you're siloed in your house or you're online all the time. I think that is so amazing that you're creating what you're calling experiments to get outside of that comfort zone, because you can get really stuck in a rut and then you're just like operating with your computer and you're trying to make all these connections online, but it's that almost that one way thing, right?
Yeah. It's interesting. Connecting with people online is so different, and
Mhm.
it's it's a love-hate relationship with me. Like, I like being online, but pretty soon I'm down the rabbit hole and 3 hours have passed. And it's like, I haven't talked to anybody, but I've looked at a lot of baby pictures and baby
Right.
goats. Like, I don't know what happened, but like baby goats are super cute. And like, in little baby pictures. So I find that when I step out and I talk to people, it's just, it energizes me, you
Oh,
know?
that's awesome.
And there's something, there's just something special about actually having face-to-face conversations with people.
Now, let me ask you, are you talking with them just in general conversations, or are you actually talking about your business?
Both. Hmm.
Oh, that's great.
Sometimes, yeah, it depends. Like, I don't ever want to go out and just, I'm not out there, pushing coaching on
Spanning the
everybody.
street.
Like,
And
I was thinking about getting a hat that says, "Hey, I'm a coach," so that people ask, but I might do it. But I just, the idea that it'll come up organically. I just have to trust, because um, the other thing is being in a conversation with people and practicing listening skills
oh,
is
that's
so
great.
different than having other conversations. Because, trying to going out there and just getting my word quota in for the day isn't the
Right.
same as having, and I can do that and I'm really good at it. Ask my
Yeah.
boyfriend. But it's like, oh my God, go talk to somebody. Um, but going out and actually having a conversation and engaging and being interested in what somebody else is doing
Yeah.
is it takes practice, because we can get so wrapped up in our own lives and what we're doing and what our agenda is. But to go out there and just, be free of that for a while, and then just go, what am I going to find out, and how do I get curious about other people, what can I learn from them? And that's where things get really interesting. And I've been having fun with that. And it was just the other day, I was driving to Huntington Beach to go meet a group of people for coffee. They meet every other week, and it's a wonderful group of people, and it's networking, right?
Yeah.
But we go more, it's the term networking really kind of,
It's like,
I think it has a
that's
negative
siloed. That's another
connotation.
siloed kind of thing. Like,
That's a
I'm going
that
to
does
go and give you my card, and you're going to go and do the blah.
Yeah. And what I love about this group is it's about building relationships, and you're not
Wow.
allowed to go there and sell anything. It's kind of like coffee with friends, like if Jerry Seinfeld was there, we would be driving in a fancy car and doing it
Yeah.
with comedians. But it's coffee with other entrepreneurs, and
Wow.
sharing practices, and really just talking and getting to know, like, what their kids are up to. Like,
Building
anytime.
relationships.
Yes, in any business and in anything, it's about building relationships, and who you know and who you trust, right? And I never go to a networking group and immediately, trust somebody, like, here, I'm gonna give you all my money and buy something from you. Like, that doesn't. I didn't go here. I didn't come here at like the mall. I came here to meet people. Like, I didn't come here with shopping bags on hand. So so I think that building relationships is so key, and it's not just with an agenda. You never know what happens with those relationships,
That is
you know.
so awesome.
And one big thing that I learned in New York as an actor is success is 80% of success is just showing up,
Amen to that. Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember going to an event, and I had been we get on these email lists and we subscribe to things and stuff like that. And I was on this email list, and they were having a free workshop for actors. And, and a lot of times you think, oh, I'm going to go to this free workshop and they're going to sell me on something.
Mhm.
And a lot of times they do, and a lot of times they don't. But I would go to all of them. I was that person. It's like a realtor having an open house and the person comes for food every weekend. That would be
Right.
me. Um, so I go to
That's good.
I go to I go to this workshop, and there were maybe 20 people in this room. And the woman in charge of it, as she was talking, she's like, take a wild guess of how many people are on our email list. And we're all guessing. And they had like over 200,000 people on their email list. And
Wow.
she said, guess how many people got this email? And we're like, well, probably
1,000.
200,000 people. It may have been more than that. It was insane. They had a ridiculous amount of people on their list. And then she said, and then from there, guess how many people RSVP'd to this event? And then look in the room and see how many showed up.
Wow.
but that's what it's like, right? And even with auditions, it's amazing how many people would submit for an audition, but only a percentage would turn out.
Really?
And then, yeah. And then how many of them actually prepared? And then you narrow it down, right? It's like same with job interviews, or same with putting yourself out there. Now apply that, how many opportunities are out there for any given thing in any given day. And then you hear about how many do you actually RSVP to, how many do you show up to, how many do you dress appropriately for or prepare for, or bring your business cards or whatever it is. Again, there's only a small percentage of the population that actually end up taking action.
Wow.
And I think that's a big part that our coaching comes into play, is about, great, okay, so you know the actions you want to take, or maybe you know of a possibility out there. How do we make that into an opportunity? Exactly. And then how do we get you there?
Action. Exactly.
Yeah. Because the only way you're going to get results is if you take an action.
Right.
Exactly. So if you choose to take the action of laying on your couch all night, it's going to get you much of a different result than it is if you step out and go meet some people and have a conversation. And that's just it. That ties into a conversation, right?
Yes.
If I step out of my house for a couple hours every day and I engage with people, I'm showing up. I'm practicing. I'm showing up. I'm having conversations. I'm building relationships. And who knows when something good will come of it. So this, like the same woman had a group that met every month, and I went every month for probably a year. But like 6 months into it, after going 6 times and engaging with the same people over and over, I landed another agent.
Wow.
But because now we became friends. Right. Now he knows who I am. Now he's seen me on a consistent basis. He talks to me. He knows I'm working. I'm doing stuff. And it's like, why am I not working with you? It's like, that's a great question.
And what a great way to have an agent who actually now knows you. You're
right.
Not like showing up and then he's going to do something to make it, now there's a relationship. He can effectively promote you.
Right. Yeah. And it's kind of like when you think of let's say you need a new doctor or attorney or something like that. What do we normally do? We ask a friend, hey, do you recommend somebody? Do you know somebody? Because like you don't want to just go to anybody. You want to research it. You want to get referrals. Referrals are huge.
Oh, huge in the coaching business.
Huge in the coaching business, but also in
too.
Yeah.
Look at Angie's list and Craig's list and all these.
Look at dating.
Oh my gosh.
Look at dating, right? Like
we need some referrals.
We need some referrals. I'm dating. I'm single, you guys. I'm your friend. Who wouldn't? Why wouldn't you want to set me up? Like,
or hey, I'm checking out this guy. Do you have any referrals on him? Like going to a doctor.
Right? Yeah, I want to get his Yelp reviews. I want to know what do people think? What are those? Like it's all about really healthy conversations and listening, paying attention. But those same conversations and practicing them in every day, what we do as a coach is really great in so many other areas, because it's like I pick up on things now that I wouldn't just on building relationships on a personal level with people.
Absolutely.
That's
so great. So Leanne, what's the biggest challenge that your clients, you see your clients having, and how do you help them work through that?
Yeah. So let's see. Biggest challenge. I think I see people being really hard on themselves. We're very critical of ourselves, and so Estelle, you and I, we share in Celebration Friday calls a lot with coaching. Yes. And I love that because it gives us permission to celebrate our accomplishments for the week. Absolutely. And I think in real life, that comes with a connotation of we're being bragging, exactly. Or we're being full of ourselves, or boy, we're going to have to widen my doorway so my head fits through it, kind of thing. Because you were just not supposed to talk about all the good things that are happening in our life. Who does that? No one wants to hear your good things happening. You make other people feel bad. But really, why aren't we celebrating those good things? Why aren't we looking back instead of looking what didn't happen? Let's look at what did happen.
Exactly.
And there, we miss so much when we're not seeing that part of the picture. We miss so much, and that's the best part of the journey. So I think that the biggest challenge with players that I see is that they don't always see their accomplishments, and that's another reason why people need a coach, right? Because we can look
Exactly.
back and go, wait, let's reevaluate. Let's look at the scorecard here, because you're doing really well. And we don't always, we can also see the forest through the trees. So their progress, what seems slow or what seems tough, we also see them growing. Like I can see their growth or how they're evolving as a player, and they
Absolutely.
don't always see that because they're in it. They are in it. And so I think
You've
that's a
got the
big challenge
legacy.
for people.
You've got the whole. You've seen where they're started from, where they're just rolling into it, and you've got the
Yeah.
whole thread of change that they're making. And I want to make one comment. One mentor that I've worked with that not acknowledging accomplishes calls it the ow versus the wow brain. So many times
Yeah.
we have a goal and we just keep going, I'm this far away. And so we just go into the ow. You just feel bad. And the
Yeah.
wow is I'm this much closer. I've done so many, we don't track that. We just go, I'm not at the goal. I'm not at the goal. I'm not at the goal. Instead of, like you're saying, celebrating even the small things along the
Mm-hmm.
way that you feel good about and will keep you in the game. If you just keep
Yeah.
going, I'm not making it, you're just going to stop, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And the other funny thing is, so there's two other things that came to mind when you were saying that, right? Because it's the how, not the wow.
Yeah.
One is that some people I find are super impatient. Like, why isn't this happening? We've been coaching a week. Like, it should happen now. It's like,
Microwave society.
yeah, it's like, just because we want doesn't mean we get. It's not a sense of entitlement. It's a sense of we earn it. We play
Right.
for it. Like in any game, we play the game to win. You have to go through like chutes and ladders. You have to go up ladders. You have to go down chutes. You have to, like, that's life. That's all part of it. You
I think
know.
it's similar to when people start a workout program. They're like, "Am I thin yet?" It's been like 2 days. It's that
Me. That
same,
would be me.
it's that same thing, and that's
Yeah.
a really good topic to talk about when it comes to coaching. Is that it's a process.
Yep.
It's not an immediate. This is a long game. It is not an immediate. You can have a lot of rewards that come through, but they're not coming through like today. It's you
Yeah.
kind of if you're going to be coached in depth, there's like a rhythm to that, because you start unearthing a lot of things that sometimes aren't very comfortable, are they, Leanne? So you're like, what the heck am I doing this dumb thing for? I'm feeling worse. But you've
Yeah.
got to kind of wait it out, because you're talking about getting out of your comfort zone. You're talking about stretching, all these things that you do
Yeah.
that you normally wouldn't do ever. People go, this is worse. So I always tell people, I actually have it in some of my paperwork, things may get a little worse before they get better.
Yes. Yeah. It's kind of like cleaning out your house. You
Yeah,
have to make a big mess of things in order to reorganize it. You have to pull
right.
everything out and then put it back. And that's kind of what we're doing here. And the other thing that I see people challenged with is the shiny key syndrome. Like, oh, if I'm doing this, now I need to be doing this. Oh, I need it this. It's like, whoa, wow.
Less is
Well,
definitely more.
squirrel. It's like I'm off and running with this one now. And
Right.
I when that comes up, I see that as fear of what they're doing.
Gotcha.
It's easy to take on a distraction rather than face what's in front of
Absolutely.
us. Hmm.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we live in an ADD kind of society where
Yeah.
with online and 24/7, and so much information coming at you in so many directions. Like, yeah, this person can help me, and that person can help me, and I can do this, and I can do that thing, and this thing, and that, and they're all telling me it's going to work. And it's
Yes.
like peel off. You've got to focus. Focus is one of the biggest. Are you finding with your
Yeah.
clients one of the biggest things?
Yeah, because we're also inundated with like, oh, I get all these emails for these webinars and I should do this and I should do
Right.
that and I should incorporate this and I got to read this book and do this. It's like, let's pick one, maybe
One.
two things and then do that, master it, do it well, and move on to the next thing. I mean, sometimes we can take on a couple, but when we start getting all over the place and these things don't all connect, then it can get really really challenging because it's we can't really multitask. Our brain can only focus on
That's
one
right.
thing at a time.
Mhm.
So what is it we really want? Or, are you doing this to avoid the other?
Something else. Who
Yeah,
invented that multitasking anyway? Who thought
I
that
don't
was a
know.
good idea?
I have no idea. I have no idea. But it's hard. I can't multitask. I can't walk and have phone conversations. Like I find that really challenging. I'm not kidding. Because someone was like, "Hey, why don't you go outside and like take some client calls or something while you're talking?" I'm like, "No. No. When I'm
Might
talking
want to
to
write a note or two, maybe. Can't
yeah,
be while I'm
because
in the
if I'm out walking on the beach, I'm like, there's people out there, and then I'm, if it's windy or
distracted.
just is yes, right? And then I'm focused on where I'm going now. I have to go downstairs, and even though it's not like I'm consciously going one step at a time, I'm going down these stairs. It takes away from me listening. And if this is important to me and my players are super important to me, I want to be somewhere where I don't have distractions, where I can give them 110% and really hone in on, be laser focused with them. So I don't do, I don't try and do client calls with while I'm driving. I don't do anything while I'm driving. That's
Yeah,
just
no.
dangerous. If you've ever been on the 405. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I keep my space specifically for my players.
I
Yeah.
think that is really key for people that work from home, Leanne, because they think that they're just like hanging out at home and working. You
Mhm.
wouldn't do some of these things if you were in a work office or work environment. You wouldn't be like going for a walk and
No.
doing a business deal or using your
Yeah.
computer. So, but because you're home, I think people that starts to, you know, there becomes a fine line and it begins to bleed into like, well, I guess I'll just do the dishes while I do this other
Oh,
thing.
I've talked to other coaches and then we're having conversations and all of a sudden they're like banging pots and pans around. I'm like, I'm telling you something really personal about me. Like, what are you
Exactly.
doing? Um, yeah, I can't imagine, because when I'm talking with my players, sometimes they're telling me some really deep um
Absolutely.
personal information. I don't want them on speakerphone and I don't want to I want to pay them the respect that they're due in that.
Right.
That takes courage to come forward and I want to honor that. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I keep my time there very I don't yeah, I can't multitask. So when my players want to multitask, I'm like, "Well, let's talk
What are you
about
doing?
that. Let's talk
Yeah.
about that."
And also during calls, I don't know about you, but I ask my players to not be distracted, to not be
Yep.
driving, to not be, you know, because
Yeah.
they can't really focus on maybe what they need to, or if they're having an emotional moment and they're like at the store, that's just not going to
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
Or that will
Yeah.
shut them down from not going somewhere that they really need to have a discussion about something that day.
Yeah. And then when I meet people face to face, which I love having players face to face, wherever it is that we choose to meet, it's usually like it's a coffee shop or something.
Yeah.
It's a place that has a quiet space,
Oh, that's
or
good.
somewhere where or there's enough distraction in other areas that if we have that, they're okay with that. And it's like
That's
wherever you're comfortable,
right.
that you can talk openly about what we need to do. So and
Okay.
that's where we find it. But yeah, like I wouldn't want to, um, you know, be like, hey, let's surf and try
Yeah,
and have this conversation. Like,
not
first of all,
workable.
I can't surf, and second of all, I don't want anybody drowning on my time. So
Hey, there you go. So what
yeah,
do you think is or find is or want to express is unique about your business and what sets you apart from maybe other coaches, relationship coaches, life coaches?
yeah. So What's unique about mine is I feel like I get more people like me, people who go through transitions, like who are really open to making change, people who are really willing to make change in their life, but also people who come to me and don't expect me to give them all the answers, right? We kind of create those answers together. So it's not like I'm going to come in and train you. I know there's a lot of coaches out there who do training.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm not that person. I'm not going to train you on how to do email newsletters, but I can share resources or things like that as a coach, and I can help guide you to find the things that work best for you. So I think in that way it sets me apart.
How about the laughter piece, Leanne?
There is that. There is that. We have fun. So I like to incorporate a sense of humor and finding the lighter side in things. And in fact, that's something that I want to bring into my practice even more, because the last thing I want to do, so when people hear like I'm a comedian or I've done all this comedy in my background, I don't want people to think that I'm going to come forward and I'm going to make a joke out of what they share with me, or that it's suddenly funny, and it's not. It's still raw, and it still stings. So that's not what it is. But I feel that through my comedy, what I have found in my own experience that I bring into my coaching thing is that by deconstructing a situation takes some of the personal hurt from it. Absolutely. Or the emotional tie to it. And so we can look at it more as data, and then how to rebuild it and put it into something completely new. And now that it's this new thing, it takes on a lighter tone. And so that's the same way that I would write a joke from a past experience that was really a personal spot for me, is it's all about deconstructing it in such a way that we start pulling it apart, like you would like if you had a little red wagon that we were playing with. Okay, we love that wagon, there's so much to it, but now let's look at it as just a wagon, and let's pull the wheels off, and then let's take the handle off, and now let's look at how it all works and put it all together, and now we see the wagon a little bit differently.
That's great. That's so awesome.
Yeah. So when I talk about humor and things like that, like I'll make, my clients and I, we have laughter, and we share in things, and we do that because there's truth in comedy. And there's also a thing too soon. You have to know when it's too soon. And sometimes it's gonna always be too soon.
Right.
But there's truth in comedy, and that's that we laugh at what's relatable. And it's also, when we see a comedian who laughs at other people for their other people's differences, that we kind of are like, maybe that comedian shouldn't say that. But when it's a comedian who's laughing at himself or herself, and it's something that's happened to them and it's also happened to us, we're like, oh, there's a connection and a bond there. Yeah. That's the kind of laughter and stuff that comes from me and my players. It's because it's relatable. There's a connection there. We get it. So it's not just something being made into a joke. So there's that special difference in there that can come into play.
That's awesome. So if you could teach the world one thing, what would it be?
Ooh. How to use their turn signal on the highway, on the road. Like, please use your indicator light. That's what I would want to teach the world.
That's a good one.
Also, I miss the subway. I much prefer the subway and mass transportation over driving any day.
California's not great with mass transportation, are they? Unless it's like a helicopter or a Learjet.
Right. It's terrible. Mass transit out here, forget about it. But what would I want to teach the world or share with the world as a coach? I think play. I love the concept of play. I love
that.
I love that idea of let's not take our things so seriously. Look at life as a game and just play. Like, what if when we were kids and we'd go outside and play, and it's like, okay, you be the mom, I'll be the dad, we're going to play house. And then if we didn't like it, we're like, let's do it over. Just
Yeah,
pretend
right.
that did, remember that? Pretend that didn't happen.
You be the doctor, I'll be the nurse.
Yeah. And
Let's start over.
yeah, let's start over. Just pretend that didn't happen. And we'd all look at each other and go, okay. And then we'd start all over. Like, let's bring some of that into our adult life and be like, let's play. Okay, well, I had this career and that didn't work. Let's start over. Okay. Okay. And then we do. And everything's fine.
How do you feel if that fits with relationships? Do you feel like that sort of fits in with relationships? I was just thinking.
Oh, yeah. I've started over those a lot. So let's
But
pretend
can
that
you
didn't
bring the
happen.
spirit of play to
And
that?
yeah, I pretend a lot of things didn't happen.
Yeah, right.
The spirit of play, yeah. I think keeping a sense of humor in relationships is huge.
Yeah.
You know, it really is. I mean, um, you know, my marriage has inspired my comedy act. So I think, yeah, it is. It really is. And an ability to laugh at, at most things aren't that big. Most things
People
are
make the
not that big of a
smallest
deal.
things huge, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I've really learned, and especially, you know, with the boyfriend, that's what we call him, the boyfriend. But he and I doing the podcast and talking through so many conversations that we wouldn't have, because our podcast was all about divorce,
Yeah.
and talking about divorce with somebody that you're just dating and having all these conversations about how we would break up, really, it's hilarious. But we talked about all that stuff, and it's really cool because we wouldn't have talked about those things unless we had been going through them ourselves. So it was really nice to have the opportunity to talk about that. And but keeping a sense of humor through it all, you know, like even in a daily basis of like me starting the rice, you know, and not starting the rice for dinner. I mean, that was such a simple dinner and I screwed it up. But instead of being angry with me, he's just like, really? Like, you did that? Like, it's 10 o'clock. We're not going to be eating till 10 o'clock. So we chuckle about that every day. And we just kind of like, okay, well, cooking's not my strength, but and he's really good at it. But I do other things. So, you know, yeah, like, why make a mountain out of a molehill? And some things are just funny.
Right.
Like that,
You take them so seriously.
yeah.
Because if you look at it 5 years later, that probably wouldn't have been that big of a deal.
Yeah, and a good way to practice that is, it sounds silly, but you brought up Seinfeld earlier.
Yeah.
You know, when we get angry at something and and like, let's say, you know, let's use a rice thing as an example. I mean, he could have just looked at me easily and been like, what's the deal with woman and rice? You know, or what's the deal with you and rice, or whatever it is. Like, or standing in the post office line, which is always super long or something. I'm like, what's the deal with the post office? Like, started like a Seinfeld joke. Let's talk about that. Yeah.
I love that. But this has been so much fun, Leanne. So how can people get in contact with you, or where can they find you? Your podcast, your website?
Yeah, so you can find all that good stuff on my website at lifelafter.com, and laughter is spelled like after, but with an L. So life, LIFELAFTER.com. And there's a tab on there for coaching. I do give away one free coaching session per person, and I will not sell you a timeshare in the middle of it. It's one... unless I think you might buy. Right. It's a full hour, and I call it my ha session, so that we can make some pretty exciting discoveries, and I'll give it my all. So if you're curious about coaching and what the process is all about, that's a really nice way to try before you buy, and also to see if you're a good fit, you know, with a coach, and if it works for you. So yeah, so that's on there. The podcast, I'm almost done putting our 100 episodes onto video, but everything's accessible from my website. So we're on iTunes and Stitcher, but all the links are right there.
Okay, and I'll have those down in the description so everybody can easily link to Leanne. Again, Leanne, I want to thank you for being here. This was so fun. And,
thank you. Thanks for having me. This was great.
I look forward to seeing how you can bring laughter and play to great relationships in the world.
Me too. Thanks.